like trash would blow over there and it would just get clogged up. So I think that was a
It's crazy
factor too. We need a little splash pad.
We need a splash pad. I know there's talk of a splash pad.
I took my daughter to the park on 24 Road in Grand Junction, and it's the coolest park because they have like 3 different sections of age-appropriate playground stuff, and then a whole section for adults to like work out, and like all these different exercises. It's all like body weight stuff, but I thought it was cool.
That's cool.
Actually,
they have a position to where you can like watch the kids, like you're at the entrance and you can work out and the kids can.
Okay, we're
up.
Okay.
I'm going to open up the workshop today, March 28th at 5:30. And first item on the workshop agenda is the administrative work plan. Summer?
Whoa, sorry.
Nope, you're good. So, in our discussions about what to have on the workshop agenda, why is that so loud? David had requested that we go over the proposed administrative work plan. It was not adopted by City Council on Tuesday, but he also wanted to go over the priority list that City Council established for Planning Commission last year, go through that, see what we've tackled, see what we still need to tackle. It seemed to me like they moved a few things around from the administrative work plan from last year. They still have some big goals for planning and planning commission, but not as, I think they kind of took a more realistic approach to their goals for us for the next year.
And so there weren't any surprises in the administrative work plan, at least from what I saw.
Let me just make sure I forgot to turn the camera on. Hey, buddy. Hi. Sorry. So we were live, but not quite live. So I think he just wanted us to go over that section of the administrative work plan, see how we were feeling about it. Come on.
So can we focus on just the priorities?
Yeah, that works for me.
Yep.
And it works for me because we can check a bunch of stuff off.
Oh, there we go. Okay, it's working. Okay, good deal. Yeah, I am fine with that. I think what he kind of wanted to look at in the administrative work plan is, are there priorities that we should probably be tackling from that for 2019?
Okay.
But your next, the
Joint.
second one in April is the joint Planning Commission City Council workshop. So I imagine that that'll probably be the topic of conversation for that meeting.
That's 11, March or April 11th.
April, yeah. Wait, is it April 11th or April 23rd? I think it's April 23rd.
Oh yeah, I can't read this.
I
table.
will not be here for
23rd.
that.
You're gone April 23rd? Okay.
I am gone April 23rd.
Okay.
Sorry, what's April 23rd?
Joint
You up?
meeting.
The joint meeting?
Yeah.
What time?
How do we prepare for that meeting?
I don't know yet. We
That's a
should
good
just show
question.
up.
I don't know. I don't know what the agenda will be. I might have a little more information
Okay.
once we get through the first April meeting with council. My guess, like I said, is probably going to be this priorities list, but I don't know for sure. But once I know from them kind of a tentative agenda, I will make sure you guys know to know what you're looking for.
23rd.
April 20.
Tuesday.
Yes, it's a Tuesday. So with the joint Planning Commission City Council meetings, you don't have another meeting on Thursday. Tuesday is the only meeting that week.
Okay.
And that just gives you the opportunity to focus on what council wants you to focus on. So you don't have to have a separate meeting later on, unless for some reason there's some sort of emergency and we have to have a meeting.
Right.
So let's look at these priorities.
So number 1, recommend an assured housing policy. Done.
Yay.
Yep.
Number 2, planned affordable development. Done.
Done.
What I can see is probably the revisions to the PUD,
Right.
but I think there needs to be some direction on what they want to see. Our PUD regs are pretty they're antiquated, I would say.
Yeah.
You know, the density, Becky had even sent me an email earlier this week, and the density in a PUD is far lower than what's allowed if you just did a standard subdivision, just figuring out your units per acre. That doesn't seem to make sense to me, because you really do want to encourage kind of the clustering of the development, but that's not what we have.
Okay.
So,
And what about where there's like really wide streets, lessening up on parking restrictions so they can get more units on the lot? Like these big wide roads where you could have
that's something that
on-street parking.
that's something that they, I'm sure, want to look at.
So we don't need a turning lane like all the way down every road.
No, I mean, ideally what is supposed to happen is that that area can kind of serve, like, usually in most places they plow the snow to the center of the street. Ours, they don't plow that direction. They kind of plow toward the curb and gutter, which allows for it to melt and flow off. But if we have significant amounts of snow, they can stockpile it there. But you can still achieve some things with smaller right-of-ways. But
Yeah.
those have just been established in our code as what they are. You know, I think that one of the things that they had asked were identifying barriers to affordable housing, and I think that's an
one
important
I
thing
was
to
thinking
list.
when I read that was parking
Yep, absolutely.
and open space.
Yep. For apartments, multi-household dwellings, with our conditional use revision, it did drop it down. I think we ended up with
200 square feet?
250, something along those lines. So that, with the changes to the conditional uses, that did help.
Right.
Which is actually tackling number 3.
3. And number 4.
And number, yes.
And then,
So I would say parking, street widths.
and I want to be careful with street widths and bike traffic. The narrower your streets get, the more dangerous it becomes for your bicycles. And we have to be aware of that.
They have to be a little narrower and regardless, because this is the only town I've ever seen that literally has a highway sized, main street.
Yeah.
You're like,
Well, like 4th East, for instance, you could do way more creative parking than just parallel or, along the street. You could do the diagonal back in, you could maybe make some little medians and.
The only thing with 4th East to keep in mind is that it is our diversion around Main Street. If for some reason there's an accident, it is the way that you can go reroute around Main Street.
Yeah.
So I don't know that one in particular is one they really want to reduce the width of, because it serves as kind of that alternate access.
but isn't 5th West that, or are you talking both sides?
I would
That's
say it's
not
probably a
silly.
both sides situation,
But
but,
anytime we have a parade, it goes
right,
east.
right.
You'd still have
Yeah.
the same amount of lanes going back and forth? Or do they make it more lanes when they divert traffic?
Or would they just got to make sure the semis can get
Yep,
through?
that's the biggest issue, is that it's not just passenger vehicles. You have to make sure you have the enough room for semis to get through.
I see.
So that leads us to the cleanup of land use code, and that seems to be an ongoing thing, kind of like painting the San Francisco Bridge.
Yes, I talked to David briefly about, there were kind of some conditional use remnants that ended up left over in the code.
Okay.
And there are a couple of things that some of the council members have identified as far as cleanup items. There's about 3 different definitions of building height, or how you determine building height in the code. That's one. Like I said, there's a few conditional use references that have now been removed, but the way that it was written, it's not something you could just eliminate. We need to reword that paragraph. One of the council members has asked for a definition of twin homes, because it's not really defined in our code anymore.
Versus
Was.
duplex.
Right, it was. So I think I'm attempting, my hats are
Yeah.
not functioning all that well, so I'm trying, but I'd like to get that put together and get it sent out for public hearing so we can get those
Okay.
housekeeping items cleaned up. That's what I started working on today. So hopefully we can get something before you guys that'll get rid of those references, give us a definition,
Okay.
give us an actual determination of how we determine building height, and some other little weird things that just need to be fixed in there.
Okay.
But there's also the bigger code reorganization that David is looking for, which would combine all of the land use items into one title in the code instead of having subdivisions as a separate title and building code as a separate title and land use as something else. It would be just one big land use title, so it's easier for people to find the information that they need.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Because you have to skip around a lot. And
You do, and if you don't know where to look,
I email Summer.
you can and you can miss things. I mean, you know, one of the things that we require is it's in the landscaping, but it's something, for some reason it's in Title 12, which is in like streets and sidewalks, and I think it's the street trees requirement for landscaping, but it's in a really weird section, and so, you know, we were missing that, and it was like, oh, we got to make sure we refer to that section too, so that developers know that that's a piece that they have to incorporate into their design.
Okay.
So hopefully we'll have all of those pieces consolidated into one glorious chapter.
Okay. I could really use a new,
I know,
because mine's 3 or 4 years old and I look at it all the time and I know it's not right.
right. I have to just refer to our online
Yeah.
code. All about that searchable text. I know.
Yeah, that's nice.
Me too, which is where I found multiple definitions of building height,
Yeah.
you know, those sorts of things. But yeah, that's kind of where, I know you were asking for one. Once we got rid of the conditional uses, we might need one more cleanup ordinance before I print it out.
That's fine. And it's no big hurry, but I eventually need something else to work with than mine.
Well, because I don't know about you, but I go through and I flag things
Me
that I
too.
know I have to refer to
Yeah.
quite often.
Yeah.
And people always say, well, where is that in the code? And it's like, oh, it's right here.
4 years ago it was in.
But as of 2 weeks ago, it now
Right.
moved to here. So
Right.
yeah, I have to do the same thing.
Okay. And then number
So,
6.
yes, ongoing.
Number 6, is that the downtown plan that they're talking about?
Yep.
Okay.
And
And we have sent that on. I don't know what they're gonna do with it, but we've sent it
yes, I have sent the changes to the
to the guys.
consultants,
Yeah.
the guys. And they had a couple of questions, but I was gone when they asked me the questions, and then they were out of the office, so I haven't reconnected with them
Okay.
on those changes. But I may give you a call just to make sure that I have the right information, since I wasn't.
Okay. And I can always come around. I can always be here at 11:15-ish
Okay.
most days.
Let me
so-
see when they're supposed to be back in the office, because their office was gonna be, they were going on vacation, I guess, I don't know.
Okay.
I think it was just to that beginning part of April, but I just need to double check, and so we can make sure that we have the right
Okay.
priorities in the right order and the right
Yeah.
setup.
Okay. And then number 7, a small area plan for Powerhouse Lane, 400 East.
Yes, we have consultants that are working on that right now. This is kind of similar, so we have Powerhouse Lane. I don't know that they've done a whole lot with 400 East, but what I expect will probably come out of that will be something from the future land use plan that they've been working on. Did you guys get a chance to attend any of those workshops? I didn't either. So that, my guess is that that will come out of
Okay.
the future land use plan.
Okay.
They have, let's see, GSBS is working on the Powerhouse Lane small area plan. I'm not sure where that's at.
And I don't know enough about small area plans, but for me, it's like spot zoning. Are we setting code up for one particular place and not others? Or are we just hoping for a design plan?
Kind of
General.
both. So we have a couple of areas.
illegal.
We have a couple of areas in town, and the two that I can think of that are actually, we have 2 different consultants working on a couple of different plans. So GSBS is actually working on East Center and West Center, and they're the ones doing the future land use plan. The East Center and West Center plans, they're really weird, not weird areas of town, but the way that they were developed, it didn't really go through any sort of pattern. Family members kind of divided, and we don't have the right-of-way widths, certain things. So GSBS has been meeting with West Center property owners and East Center property owners separately to come up with an overall plan for that area. And they've provided input, so they're kind of talking about reduced right-of-way widths in some of those areas. There was parking, they had kind of parking shown on the street for West Center, but I think they got rid of that. I can't remember. Ultimately, this will be adopted into, I think it's going to be adopted into the code. I'm not positive. I don't think it's an amendment to our general plan because it's very specific to that area. But I think we would have this plan, and then we would kind of look at changing some code for that to work in that area. But it is specific to that area, so it doesn't change the overall code for everyone. But the city needs some things, the residents want some things. This is how we're trying to meet in the middle.
Right.
If that makes sense.
For me, that's a weird idea, to set code in particular places that aren't necessarily the same in all the other zones of that
But
type.
it could be something that is modeled, like it starts there and then it's modeled out.
Anyways, it's like there's an area where you're noticing a lot of discrepancy,
Yep.
and it would be nice to sort of get this ironed out and then sort of have that template.
And then, if we see that it's
like business
working
districts and
or
things
not
like that.
working, you can make some adjustments based on that. So it starts out as that, but then it could certainly expand to allow that in other areas. It's just that this is kind of our trial piece.
The idea
So it's
is
not
still
changing,
weird.
We wouldn't really,
like
it's
the
not really
zoning,
changing the
it's
code.
just like road and road specific.
Yeah. I mean, it's not changing any of the uses that are allowed at this point, but it really is kind of more of design standards for the area as far as the road widths.
It is kind of a unique, problematic area.
Both
I will
sides.
say. Yeah.
Both sides.
At the
And
end,
so is Powerhouse.
Exactly, which is why we've,
the creatives. Yeah.
why we started the
Makes
small
sense.
area plans, was just to,
But I want to be clear that we are not working for city council.
what do you mean?
We make our decisions on administrative codes and.
For certain things,
For
or you
certain-
make recommendations
Right,
to city
with
council on legislative things.
On that kind of stuff. But I want to make sure that when we go and do something like this, that we follow.
Well, ultimately what you'll do is if there are codes that need to be changed as a result of these plans, you would make those recommendations to city council. That's the legislative item. They can choose to approve or not approve. That's up to them. Should they approve it, then you're acting as that administrative body and you're following exactly what they've approved. So
Exactly.
yes,
Because
once they set the rules, you guys get to make sure we're following the rules.
Right.
Well,
That's,
we technically
that's
make
more
sure.
of us.
that sounds backwards.
But I just want to be sure that if we decide that something has to happen on Powerhouse Lane, the trash cans have to be pink, then I want to be sure that at some point we realize that it is either going to be for that entire residential zone or it's going to be for Powerhouse Lane. And if it's just going to be for Powerhouse Lane, how do we put that in our code?
Or it's
And is it
possible
legal
that it
for
may
us to
end
do
up as
that?
an overlay zone for that area, that maybe someone could come and apply and say, I live on Fifth West and we want pink trash cans too. We want to take advantage of whatever this overlay or something along. I don't really know what that's gonna look
Yeah,
like.
I don't either.
I see it similar to the downtown plan where you're basically looking at what you would like it to be down
Right.
the road and making sure that, say, if someone on one of those properties comes over for a zone change in some way or some, whatever, that you say, okay, here's the idea of what we wanted things to sort of transition into. So, but yeah, I get your concern
Yeah.
about it not being.
not code, but it
Yeah.
is
Yeah,
code.
I'm
and-
not
Especially-
real happy about
It's kind of
that.
more of a guiding document, but it
Yeah.
could, out of that guiding document, similar to the downtown plan, there may be revisions that have to happen to the code
Yeah.
to actually actualize that vision, whatever
Yeah.
that vision is.
That sounds
So,
better to me.
I mean,
And legally, it's something that bolsters our
Right.
ability to do something in the future because it's not formal notice, but it
Okay.
sort of puts you
right,
on it.
right.
And then we're ready for another round of the general plan already.
Which is
So
coming.
So the future land use plan, though, the future land use plan is going to be our update to the
Good.
general plan. So it's not going to be as excruciatingly painful as the last go
Good.
around.
I wasn't here for that. and It was great.
It was,
Oh, it was
Lovely.
rough. So just a little history on that. We had started it. There were open houses. You guys were here.
I
There was
wasn't.
oh, you
That's
weren't here at
before my
that? Jeanette
time.
was here.
yeah.
Yes, I
We
was
had
here.
a lot of public comment. We had a lot of feedback. We put it into a version. Then we had some changes in the administration, and that was put on the back burner. And then it kind of resurfaced.
Ignited.
And then there was some concern about, there was a lot of public input that was provided at the time that this has happened. And so because there was that lapse, because there was kind of a few year gap between things happening, they just wanted to make sure that that wasn't going to happen again. So we have kind of the updates to the general plan on our standing list of things to think about and things to do in the future.
Yeah.
But the future land use plan will be our amendment to the general plan.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Okay.
that's a beautiful thing.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this is actually the priority list for last year. If you think we should add something to it or change something or do anything else to it, those suggestions should go to city council, I suppose.
I think number 8 and number 7 should be switched. I think that recommend small area plans for Powerhouse and Forties. I think that's down on my, it's really down on my list of things. I mean, seriously, we need to get the way things go, it's just we need to get that general plan in with the future land use map.
Yeah.
I think
And
based on
that's the
how things are
priority.
looking
Yeah.
right now, that will be the case anyway.
Right.
Okay.
There are a lot of things hinging on that future land use plan for future code changes, so I imagine that will already be a switch.
I would really like, I mean, if we can just reflect that, basically number 3 being a little bit broader as something that follows the future land use plan that's happening right now, because there are gonna be code changes that we're gonna wanna make still within
I agree.
the 6-month time period, and that needs to be our super duper priority, because we have to go through our whole process.
Yep.
Then it has to go to city council,
Yep.
and none of that is gonna be painless.
So at one point in time, you'll remember, and you should remember possibly, we had that list of barriers to affordable housing that we
Right.
kind of worked on. I think we've tackled quite a few of them, but it might be something to resurrect.
I'd love to see that.
And I'll put it back in your packet for next time.
Yeah.
I think the last time we looked at it was
Long time ago.
2012, 2013, 2014, I don't know. It's been a while. But half of you were not here, so we should probably at least bring it back
Bring it
and make
back
sure
We did it.
or if
going
we
in
have
that
it, we're
direction.
gonna work on it. So,
Yeah, I agree.
Summer?
Yo.
I have a question.
yes.
So we have a list of all these things that we want to work on, but when do we get a chance to do it? I mean, really, I'd love to talk about some of these things, but
During our workshops,
Yeah. Ultimately, it'll be during your workshops.
Which is from 5 to
5 to 6 or 5:30 to 6, because this one wasn't huge. That's why I scheduled it a little bit later. But this list could be different too after city council, after your meeting with city council, or if they establish kind of some priorities for you. But I would expect that the barriers to affordable housing is going to be something that they're going to want you to work on. So I think 3 is gonna stay, might move up to one,
Yeah.
since one is done.
I just think it takes a lot of time, and I
It
don't
does.
think we have the time to, we
It
just
does.
don't take the time to do it.
Right.
It
It's
does.
helpful if they were aware of what we were doing in the meantime, so it didn't get to them and it wasn't a surprise like happened last time.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll just say that on the record. That would be really great.
Yep. And like I said, the joint city council planning commission workshop scheduled in April might give us a better roadmap of where they want us to go.
Yeah.
So,
And we as a planning commission can meet outside of our workshops if we have enough notice. And I know that we've talked about that quite a bit, and we've never been able to get people to be willing to do that, so.
I think
that's
if we
always
had
on the
like
table.
more of a specific agenda item.
Right.
I'd be.
well, and I think when we when we kind of dial it down to what needs to happen as far as the code is concerned, we can certainly, talk about if you want extra workshop times, we can set those. It's not a big deal. The only issue would be if we set them and nobody shows up.
Right.
So are we suggesting items to be added to this list too, or more just the arrangement of the
sure.
items? I'd like to see more commercial zoning for like small businesses and, kind of worked into busy neighborhood corridors with kind of like C1 where we've got apartments on the top.
Yeah.
Where you've got like a transition
Cafes,
zone.
insurance office, whatever, local business kind of area.
I think hopefully some of that is going to come out of the
Future land use.
future land use planning stuff.
Yeah.
I hope so.
I think.
I'll just put
yeah.
a list, I'll just put kind of commercial transition zoning.
More, yeah, more C1 and C5.
And do you feel like there are a lot of people out there that want business space and can't find it?
Yes.
I've heard from quite a few that it's really hard to find office space.
Well, and you don't want it really on Main Street or
Right.
near, like, there's so many nice, like, Fifth West, Fourth East. I don't know, there's just little pockets where you could have nice little cafe, a bike shop, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, that's
And then
probably
apartments
what,
below.
that's where I think I have the biggest heartburn about Williams Way. I think Williams Way could have been something
Great little
like
corridor.
a great little corridor with cafes and offices and doctors' offices and stuff instead of apartments.
Don't give
or
up on it
condos.
yet. Don't give up on it yet.
I know, but
Things can redevelop.
I know, but right now as it stands, you can't. So,
Like,
but
the Cottonwood townhomes, is that what you're talking about?
I think that
People
was a
really
big,
like those. I mean, they've been a great asset to the
but
real
they've
estate
had a lot
market.
of problems with. They've had a lot of problems with that development, and I'm not real.
Being in the floodplain.
That's one. Number two, probably every couple weeks we have to clean out the lift station,
Oh,
and so it's not a perfect situation, and I don't think it. I don't think that kind of development is good for a neighborhood.
yeah.
I think that was just done kind of like, that sounds like a great idea. Let's do that. And it was great, but I would have loved to have seen maybe some cafes for the hospital or maybe some short-term apartments that patients could stay if they had treatments or something like that that would have been much more neighborhood friendly as opposed to condos.
Well, it's there, but we can look to other areas and.
Oh, yeah, so that's just something
Improve.
that as far as development is concerned, I'm totally into neighborhood development as opposed to condo development.
So are we going to set up a time to where we can talk about all this?
I would suggest that you wait until after the joint meeting with the city council, because this list could be different than what it is right now.
Because this was last year's list.
Yeah.
I know, but
Yeah.
I just think that I think the city council needs to rely more on us.
And I think we need direction from the city council before we can start working on anything.
But
That's
I-
what I'm afraid of.
I mean, we're an arm, and I don't feel like that we're acting like we should be. You know, we're not taking it serious enough. I think they're looking for us to make recommendations, and I think they'll accept them. I just think we need to take the bull by the horns and do that.
We tried to do that and we got slammed.
Yeah,
Sorry. I'm
they didn't take our
sorry. They
recommendations,
didn't.
quite frankly, at all.
Nope. Nope. And that's my fear. They won't.
So I think if we could push them to give us an updated priorities list, then we can start digging
Yeah.
You
into
can find
it.
them in the middle somewhere.
And then we can say, this was your priorities list.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
This is historical, Brian. This is not.
I know.
So let's see if we
It's
can't get,
frustrating.
I
I
just-
totally get it.
so let's see if we can't get something out of that April joint meeting.
Yeah.
And then go from there.
And then we can have specific items that we can
Right.
hack away at through workshop time or other scheduled meetings.
Okay, I'd like to
Okay.
close the workshop. And I call to order the March 28th, 2019 meeting of the Moab Planning Commission at 6 p.m. There are no public hearings tonight. And the first item in the agenda is citizens to be heard. This is for items not on the agenda. If you would like to speak, you can fill out a public comment card in the hall. Anybody here for items not on the agenda? I will tell Mr. Adams you were here.
Take an agenda from out in the hall, and I'll initial it, and then you can prove that you were here.
So these are high school students here for their social studies credit.
Yep.
Oh, awesome. Sweet. Hi.
Okay.
I thought it was just, mom watch.
She would never come to see me. She would never come to see me unless she had to.
And
was
I
like, "Why
I
are
also
you
told
here?"
them that planning commission meeting will be nice and short tonight so they can go home and do their calculus homework.
If it's any consolation, the first trimester government students kind of got the same information so that they could do that on short meetings also.
Okay, moving on. The approval of minutes on February 14th, 2019. We tabled this last time and I can't remember why.
Because there was nobody here.
No, what had happened was Stephanie had actually finished the minutes, but she had lost her connection to the VPN. So when she saved, it didn't save all of the motions that
yes,
happened. So there
yes.
wasn't,
Okay.
that information was not in those minutes. And I've actually pulled the corrected minutes, so we should be good.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes. I motion to approve what's the date? The minutes from February 14th, 2019.
Is there a second?
Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
I was here last time.
This is from February 14th.
From February 14th.
14th.
You had a
Okay,
Valentine's
okay.
Day date.
A few times ago.
I wasn't there.
We'll get those taken care of soon.
Okay.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor of approval of the minutes from February 14th, 2019?
Hi.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Okay. Action item number 5, Planning Resolution 09-2019, a resolution recommending to City Council approval of the Mill Creek Corner subdivision, a minor subdivision of 808 Mill Creek Drive located in the R2 single and two household residential zone. Summer?
Okay, so I didn't make a lovely PowerPoint presentation for you
Totally
guys.
fine, dear.
We all
It's
know
not
where
that
it
big
is.
of a deal.
Because it is a minor subdivision, it is 4 lots. It meets the requirements of a minor subdivision, so they basically kind of skip to the final plat provisions. The parcels meet the zoning requirements for the zone. You have a single household, well, 2 single household parcels. One is a flag lot, one is not, and then you have a twin home lots as well.
Right.
Let me just pull up the subdivision plat. I mean, you have it in your packet, but we'll just look at it real quick.
I think this is a great use of the land. I just
Oh, yeah.
am not sure about driveways.
So our engineering department has been working with the applicant, and I believe that that has been addressed. The driveway locations have been approved by the engineering department.
Okay.
Apparently I have to tell it this is ready. Come on, buddy. I'm a little out of practice. I missed the last meeting and I'm not prepared. I'm sorry.
I'm just excited. I know they've been wanting to do this for a while with the
Yep.
property after they got their new intern quarters, and it'd be
So,
awesome.
part of the reason why I didn't really put together a presentation is because I had actually asked Community Rebuilds to kind of give you guys an overview of the project, because it is different from what they have done in the past. So Reed is here with Community
I was
Rebuilds.
just gonna say, I think they're.
Yeah.
Yes. So here is the subdivision plat.
Tell us about it, please. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
So I'm Reed. I'm with Community Rebuilds. I'm the Planning and Development Vista. So I've been working on this project since I got here, pretty much. And this subdivision is a pretty special project for us. We're trying to do the Living Building Challenge, which is a really rigorous green building certification. So the idea with living buildings is that they have the same impact on the environment as a flower. So they're supposed to be beautiful and like energy and water positive and contribute more to their environment than they're taking away. So most of our homes are actually already energy positive. Not most, a good number of them have enough solar that they're self-sufficient for energy. And then with these, we'll be using like rainwater to flush toilets and non-potable uses, and be dealing with all wastewater on site. So they'll pretty much be self-sufficient buildings. And we'll also be kind of relooking at our materials and our carbon footprint and all that kind of stuff.
So when they had first brought this project to us, and they talked with the city about it, but I thought it was a really neat project. So the project itself doesn't really have anything to do with the subdivision, but I really wanted you guys
No,
to
this
be
is
able
great.
to
Thank you.
to see what it is that they were planning on doing for this location, because I thought it was really interesting. So I realized that it doesn't actually have anything to do with the subdivision itself, but I wanted them to give you kind of an overview of the project.
Okay. And will these be regular self-help
Yeah.
houses that will be sold? Okay.
Yep. So all four will be for different families, and I think we want to start with the back two single units, and then
Okay.
do the twin
So
ones up
on this
front.
map,
Hang on, let me switch.
okay. Show us what you and the engineers have decided to do about driveways and egress and
Sure.
ingress.
Yeah, so we already have two curb cuts there. There's one to
Come
the
on up.
north, and then there's one.
Come on up, point.
Oh, yeah.
So we're kind of right here is one,
So there's an existing curb cut here and an existing
and then
curb cut
one
there.
over here.
And since this is already such a busy intersection, we didn't really want to be adding more curb cuts, and also we want to be closer to the stop signs. And
Right.
anyway, so both of them will have to widen a little bit, and then these two lots will share that one, and they'll kind of have a shared drive that branches off, and then these two will share this one. So this one, the driveway goes to that house in there. So it's not really, it's a shared curb cut more than a shared drive.
I was gonna say, and the same, because the flag-shaped lot, it does require that the handle portion serve as access only to that one.
Right.
The flag lot, it is the access, but that curb cut's already there, so they're sharing that curb cut. It's not serving as the only access to both lots.
Okay.
Okay.
They both have their own access,
Right.
but they're sharing that curb cut, which will help kind of keep some expenses down and not having to,
So
Put in
lot
new
2B
ones.
accesses through lot 3?
yes,
Is there
and
an
they will.
easement, or do they have to own the property?
What's that?
Is there an easement, or do they have?
They'll have to have a shared access easement, which is that piece right there.
Oh, I see. It
And
lines
then
up
there-
with, so it's part of 2B.
Yeah, and this house, their driveway won't, it'll be coming kind of a different direction.
So they'll give, 2B will give 3 an easement.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I,
The 3 will get to be an easement.
Oh,
Yes.
not there.
backwards. Okay.
And will
There was
lot
something-
1, 2A, and 2B all have addresses on Mill Creek Drive? And 3 have an address on, I think, Mill Creek Drive?
It looks like one will have an address on,
We used to require that they provide us with the address numbers on the plat,
But it
but the
doesn't matter.
county recorder's office hasn't been doing that. So we don't really know the addresses at this point. Once it's recorded, they'll get their addresses and they'll pull their building permits based on that.
Okay.
And I think in one of these, I think so, in the stuff that was sent originally. Is it in the utility plant or?
I just have a general question. So, do you only have to own your access if it's a flag lot?
The requirement for the flag lot is that it serves as access to that portion only.
So somebody else's driveway can't come off the flag,
Right.
flag property.
So here, this is.
Right. You have to own your access.
Right.
In the flag lot, there is a provision in the code that does allow for shared driveways.
I see.
But the flag lot, the handle portion has to serve as access to that lot only.
You have to own it.
That's a nice picture.
So
I like
this
that.
is their site plan. This kind of helps to show how they're planning to access those
Okay.
buildings.
Great use of the land. I like
Yes,
it.
it is. It's awesome. Even though I feel really bad for you because you really had to go down to the studs.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
so sorry.
Yeah,
That building.
we're trying to salvage as much of it as we can. So that's actually been an interesting
Yeah, I know.
taking
the
Process
current-
layers
itself.
off.
I know the current build is taking some wood from it, right?
Yeah,
The ones
so-
that are over in Dock Allen or
Yeah.
Mountain View.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's cool.
So current builds will use some of that lumber and material, and our like interns have already built like a bunch of picnic tables and stuff out of the fences, and it's pretty cool.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Excellent.
What's the light tan brown triangular thing?
So we had an issue where one of our curb cuts was not on our property, so we had to talk to the neighbor to the south of like redrawing that
Oh.
corner so that we would actually have that
A little
access on our
snippet,
property.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
see.
that part is being
Yes.
rewritten a little. Yeah.
So the dark brown's not your property, but you're gonna use the corner of the triangle for,
Yeah. I think it will be our property.
I believe that was
wasn't
my
there for this
understanding from Ricky
conversation.
was
Okay.
that
Lot line
that's
adjustment.
been taken care of.
Yeah.
There was a first round of comments that have gone back to them. Most of them are engineering comments. This was one of them that needed to be addressed. And they've told us that it has been addressed, but the surveyor hasn't been in the office or he's been really busy, so we haven't received that final documentation yet.
okay.
What is the purpose of the jog between 2A and B? Is
The
that
purpose
party
of
wall?
what?
The jog and the lot line like that?
I think it's so that it gives it a little more depth, so that it's not just, they're not right next to each other.
Yeah,
It
they've
gives
done
a-
that with some of their other twin homes. It just sort of, that way someone
Breaks
can
it up a
have
little
their,
bit.
their backyard be more of a yard and someone can have their front yard be more of a yard. It ends up being nice and then you don't share as much wall either,
Correct.
so.
I have a question, Summer. Is there sidewalk in front of that all the way around?
That is all sidewalk, yep.
Okay. I think that's a great use of the land.
Yeah, so do I.
I think it's awesome.
And it will certainly be easier to look at than what was out there
Oh,
previously.
I totally agree.
Okay, any other discussion?
Do you want to
Looks
go
good.
over any of these other things?
I don't know. I pretty much covered the
If you guys
basics of it.
want some of this information, just for maybe I'll just forward these PDFs if that's okay with you guys, just so they can
That'd be
review
awesome.
them. It's a neat project.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah.
Totally.
we're excited about it.
Good.
and the Living Building Challenge, they've done in other areas, correct? There were some other, I believe Kenner,
Yeah, so the architect we're working with built one in California.
Yeah.
But there's only like 20 buildings in the world or something that have achieved it.
but you
And we
can,
were already like pretty close. Like we were like, oh, we already have like a pretty low carbon
Yeah.
footprint, and like our materials are pretty healthy and
Yeah.
energy positive. So
I would encourage you to Google Living Building Challenge just to see some of the homes that were constructed. They're really neat.
yeah.
The Living Building Challenge has its own webpage as well, where you can go
Yes.
check out what it shows.
All right, can I call for a motion?
Let me pull it up. I motion to approve a resolution recommending to City Council approval of the Mill Creek Corner subdivision, a minor subdivision of 808 Mill Creek Drive, located in the R2 Single and 2 Household Residential Zone. And that would be Planning Resolution 09-2019.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
And let's have a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Future agenda items?
one's you.
Summer?
This one's you.
So I think, as we discussed earlier in the workshop, that we really need to wait to see what council does with us in our joint meeting. They need to come up with a new priorities list, and then we can start working. Even if we can't start working on the PUD or the parking or whatever it is, we can certainly keep looking through the land use code and figuring out where things belong and where they don't belong, and figure out how higher building heights should really be, and little things like that. So,
ADU setbacks?
yeah, so let's kind of plan on that as our default, is the land use code changes. And then anything else that council gives to us after that joint meeting on April 11th, we'll follow through with that as fast as we can. We all know the clock's ticking on the moratorium, so it's not the moratorium. What is it?
Temporary land
Temporary
use
use
regulation.
Thank you. And so whatever it is that they throw us with that, we're gonna have to act, and act quickly. And I hope that we would be amenable to additional workshop time if need be.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So
Please do.
whether that's earlier, before the 5 o'clock normal start, or whether it's some other time during the week. So just keep that open.
And I will dig out that old affordable housing, barriers to affordable housing list,
Okay.
just so we can look at that next time.
See if I can
Yeah.
find, I can see if I can.
I found it. I found it a while ago,
Oh, you
but
did? Okay.
I'll find it again.
All right.
Okay.
And our new planner starts when?
April 15th.
Awesome.
So you guys are stuck with me for
I
another
met
meeting.
her in Salt
Did
Lake
you?
City.
Yay.
Yep, she was at the symposium I was at last week. She seems great. I'm really
And I
excited.
have friends that have worked with her in Park City, and they love her, so we're
I
anxiously waiting.
when I went to the municipal clerks meeting in Cedar City, I had a couple of different communities talk to me about taking their people. Him and her.
If they were to close Moab, but I'll still be there.
Don't hate us because we're beautiful.
Right, right.
Okay, on that
Okay.
note, if there's nothing else that needs to be discussed for the good of commission, I pronounce the meeting closed. Thank you guys for all
Hey,
showing
thank
Oh
up.
man, was this the shortest
Yay.
meeting ever?
Shortest meeting ever.
It's the